went in to make his complaint, and those individuals who called, all of them said the same thing. Romain never threatened him. English is a funny language, and that's the only language I speak. I don't speak no other language. And so I make no apologies for that.
The mighty Dow.
I never threatened anybody. You see, the funny thing about all of this
But
is
no.
that, let me say this.
No, because
What's the most interesting thing about all of this?
What?
Is that
you buy the rumors, but when they talk rumors about you, you don't buy it? Don't you see what's going on when you attack the government and they talk shit about you?
No, I see, but I don't bother about it. If you notice really that a lot of things have been said about me, you never see me come out in the newspaper say anything about it. Have you noticed that? You've never seen me gone on the radio and make anything about it, because people who know me know that is foolishness.
I'll tell you right now, they come
people who wait no man. People who know me knows that the stuff that they hear, one-on-one he making two. And so when you have an individual, and I respect the guy. The guy is one of the best steel pan players I have ever seen. I respect the man for that. You can't take that away from the guy. You understand what I'm saying? And so, because you didn't get your way, because you didn't get what you were asked, what you wanted, that you allow yourself to have these other individuals who had issues with me to use you as a pawn against me. And that's what it was. People make an issue about the whole Temple thing. What was the problem with Temple? I asked the CEO of the network to celebrate the 7th anniversary in St. Martin. Why? Why? I asked a network to come and do it. And because you have problems with me, you're going to find ways to destroy. So why did I ask a network to come to St. Martin? Couple reasons why. Number one, we don't market St. Martin. Where we just market this island, and we're supposed to be a tourist designated island. This is supposed to be our only industry, our one pillar economy. We market in a destination magazine that you get when you come on the airplane to come to St. Martin, and that's it. We do not, when you look at Curacao or Aruba and those other islands that pump $2 million in their week festival, their South Beach, and people making noise about $400,000 for a network.
How can you spend $400,000 when St. Martin is suffering and going hungry?
Well, let's be objective with this thing here.
I am being objective.
You cannot be blaming Peter for Paul. And this is something that we have to understand carefully, man. Listen to me carefully, right? The Minister of Tourism has a tourism budget. The Minister of Education has an educational budget. The Minister of Health has a health budget. So because the Minister of Education isn't doing anything, let's say hypothetically, isn't doing anything with the schools, that means the Minister of Tourism can't use his money for tourism. Because we have an issue at the hospital and it needs equipment and investment. That means the Minister of Tourism can't use his money in his tourism budget.
Bullshit.
No, let me explain to you something. Let me explain to you something. Minister of Tourism, right? Whatever the Minister of Education doing with their money, and if the Minister of Education don't want to pay COLA, don't want to do this in the schools, don't want to do that, that means I have to suffer. That means I must not use my money for what I am the minister of my responsibility to do. And so we must put blame where blame has to go. And let's be honest and frank, right? If we have an issue with the schools, then we need to take that to the minister in charge. And don't jump on Minister A for fulfilling his portfolio. And we think, oh, that money should go into 400,000. Oh, that should go into the teachers. Yes, the teachers do need help. Yes, the schools need improving. Yes, We do need to separate some of the schools and them the high schools from this from the different grades and so forth. We need to build more schools. Absolutely. But take that to the Minister of Education. You don't get down on the Minister of Tourism for fulfilling his portfolio. And I think there is where we get it wrong many times. And we can say all the time that yes, that money could be used somewhere else. So the question is, we need to now focus on what the real issue is. Now, if the Minister now of Education is taking, let's say, $400,000, right? Or got an investment of a certain amount of money, and there are dire needs of, let's say, a breakfast program for our young kids in the morning that goes to these schools. Let's say there's a need of new and updated textbooks in the schools. Yes, there's a need of upgrading the school facilities, right? Dire needs. And she is taking that money, let's say hypothetically speaking, and putting it into, let's say, some other thing that don't have no real important relevance. Then the argument could be that money needs to be spent in the true nature and the real and the necessity and the need. But for you now to jump on a minister, right, for taking his individual budget, because every minister has his own budget, and say he should take that $400,000 and give it to the Minister of Education to put in her budget. The question that we need to ask ourselves, okay, Minister of Education, Minister of Health, Minister of Social Affairs, how much budget do you have for the school's education? How much budget do you have for the social welfare? How many budget do you have for all of these things are in dire need? And why are you not taking that budgetary money and putting it where it needs to go? But I cannot blame, and I will not subject no minister or no government, whether it's a government that I support or government that I do not support. I will not piggyback and join that line to say he needs to take that money and put it to somewhere else when that individual is performing his portfolio. Case in point, at the time when, before country cemented, the good commissioner, Heiliger, was fulfilling his portfolio. Look, whatever issues we may have right now, I can see above that and give Jack his jacket and Jane her lipstick when it is due. Because I'm not biased person. I'm not a biased person. He was fulfilling his portfolio. And what people were saying all the time, oh, the people can't eat trees. Or the money that's spent in development could go to schools. But that's not his responsibility. There was a Minister of Education who was responsible for that. And so we must now be big enough people and mature enough to have a serious, mature conversation of how government really functions. Because most of us, we say certain things, and I'm saying to myself, but you really don't understand how government functions. You can't blame one minister for doing what he's supposed to do and say that he should take whatever money he got and give it to another minister, and that's not his portfolio. We must put the blame where the blame has to go, the responsibility for where it has to go, and the onus on where it has to fall.
Would they get the same benefit as Tempo?
Judy, what you need to do, and I'm glad that my assistant is here.
Me too.
In my office.
But honey, we go on YouTube, so don't worry about it.
My assistant could tell you how many young men that I take the time out, and young women to assist them in their ventures. Let me do case in point. My assistant last year, he's a law student. I ain't gonna call no names because I don't need to get him involved.
No, listen, if I want to hunt him down, I'll hunt him down. Don't worry about it.
Listen, the young man is a law student. He's sitting right here now. He's a law student, right? He came to me with a lot of other young kids last year when they took a visit around the parliament. And the one thing that I told them, I said, look, listen, if you guys want to come to here to work for summer, this and the third, let me know and you'll work for me. The young man called me. I didn't know how I would have got him in. I think I probably paid him a month's salary out of my pocket. I paid him a salary out of my pocket until his stuff was regulated. He's a honor student at one of the top high schools in St. Martin. And so he can tell you that I don't just talk. And he has been in here and sat here with young people that have come to me from college that have great ideas, and I have motivated them. I have pushed them to be able to achieve their goal, because I am not here for me. And so I understand that you have some gripes. I understand you have your gripes, and rightfully so to have your gripes. And I don't know what your gripes is. I don't know all what you have been going through. I don't know. And one thing with me, I've heard that, some little thing back then with a former commissioner. I don't get involved in them
I've been over Julian and Rollins, and
I don't know.
Vaseline.
I don't know. I don't care. That is not Romain LAVILLE. I don't care about hearsay, all them nonsense. I'm not going to dictate and spend my time listening to them craziness.
I'm really enjoying this interview.
Well, I hope you are.
I'm really enjoying it because this is different. This is a spin. This is a completely 360 spin.
Because why? Because the thing is that people go on what they hear other people say, and then when you really sit down and talk to the individual themselves, you realize, geez, on peace, there's a bunch of crap people were saying. This is me. And one thing with me that I always do is, number one, I don't listen to hearsay. Number two, I don't make no judgments on hearsay unless
and you're serious about this.
From the sorry?
You're serious about the hearsay part.
I'm extremely serious.
You base it all on facts and what you know.
Everything.
Okay.
I don't repeat nothing or say nothing if I don't hear it from that individual themselves. And so I don't entertain that type of lifestyle. The main reason why I wanted the Temple Network to come to St. Martin. Not only that, because they have an audience of the tri-state area, which is our source market, and throughout the Caribbean. Temple is to us in the Caribbean what BET and MTV is to Americans, and we must never forget that. And many times we seem to have an issue when it's our own people doing things. We have the issue with it. Secondly, first, because it's a network, and to give St. Martin that exposure. Second, and most importantly, we have artists in this country, and if you watch the Temple Network, you see artists from St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Trinidad, Jamaica, Bahamas. You don't see artists from St. Martin. You don't see St. Martin featured on Temple Network. And so St. Martin, the only artist that I have ever seen was Shadow Man. And when I saw Shadow Man's video on it, I said, man, we reach. We here now. St. Martin is there. And so the idea was that for all the artists that we have on St. Martin that would not necessarily get the opportunity to have their video on BET, to have their video on MTV, and as much as big as we may think some of our artists here on St. Martin are, they would never get a chance. And so that was the reason for Temple, to give them that opportunity, that their talent now could be showcased on a network, our network. Temple is our network. Temple is a Caribbean network. It is our own. And who is watching that network? Our market source, our source market, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, couple states in America, the whole Caribbean, South America, certain places in Europe is watching Temple, to hopefully that some promoter, some producer can say, man, that guy is some good, man. Who's this guy? Let me call him up. Let me try to make a contact so that our artists can now move out of St. Martin and gain that exposure that they will support, that they are trying hard to get. And so it bothered me because we have politicians that can boast that they've been in government for 18 years. They can boast that they have been in government for 4 consecutive terms. But the question is, they knew we had struggling artists in this country. What have they done to give them the exposure that they direly needed? And so, who would ever ask, and I mean this with all respect, who would ever ask a man like Shadow Man, who I love still today, to perform on a stage with T-Pain? Who promote her?
For free?
Who promote her? For free. Because you know why? I have had conversations with a lot of music industry guys. And when they talk about how they started, if you look at the story of DMX, look at the story of Jay-Z, look at the story of Swiss Beats, look at the story of Nas, look at the story of Busta Rhymes. How did these guys started? Rapping on shows and concerts for free. Rapping in clubs for free. When they have shows going on, they would be in a parking lot with their trunk open, selling their CDs, hoping that they can get a producer to hear their track. How did Eminem start? How did Eminem start? And so when the problem is that we are focused, we have focused the direction on the money. And I ask myself, what do you want to be? Do you want to be an artist to make this your livelihood? Or do you want to just care about the money? And so if you want to be as a Jay-Z, a Nas, and all these other guys, a Beanie Man, a Buju Banton, and those guys, you sit down and you ask them how they started. They rap for free, they perform for free because they wanted that break. And this is what I was giving them. This is what the negotiation was and the conversation I had with the network. And it was sad that certain members, that because they had an issue with me, used certain artists to take away something from them that could have been given to them.
Thank you, Romain LAVILLE.